Please hit like, share, and subscribe. Now enjoy the Practical Guitarist podcast. Yeah, easily. David, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was going to ask. So are you after a similar vintage custom, or are you looking at something else?
Me?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm probably gonna wind up with a new one. To be honest, I don't need a vintage, vintage Les Paul custom. There's not number one. I don't want one that's beat up. I don't want one that's beat up. I don't even want one that's broken in. I want to do all that myself. So this is going to be one of those guitars that I know is going to stay with me for decades. It's going to be worth a lot more than what I paid for it, and I could, I suppose I don't. The only thing that I would be absolutely opposed to if it was for that set of years in the Henry era when they went away from ebony fretboards and they were using Richlite. The Richlite personally doesn't bother me, but it's absolutely affects the resale value.
Oh yeah.
That's those aren't going to be worth as much down the road. So now but they're putting ebony on them again now. So that's what I want. That's so like I'll probably just likely order a new one.
So. The funny part about Richlite is people, they poo-poo it like really hard, but I mean, you can see that there are still manufacturers using it, and they're usually using it
for decades.
Well, there's usually like the ones I think of that when they're using it, like Godin, are using it on their synth model guitars or their multi-voice guitars because it has an even frequency response compared to, and for whatever reason it improves tracking. Yeah. So people are still using it in those kind of applications. Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's good or bad, but
it makes sense though.
It's just a choice,
That does make sense. Regardless.
It'll only be unpopular until somebody really famous starts playing one, and then all of a sudden there'll be a run on them, and you won't be able to get the used vintage ones. But it'll be 20 or 30 years before that happens. Somebody's going to do it at some point.
I'm sure they will. But, I can't predict that.
Yeah, right.
If you'd have asked me if Fender Squiers would be selling for over $200 right now, I'd have told you were nuts. And yet,
the original ones, the Japanese ones.
No, wow, the Japanese ones. Jeez, some of those are going for $400 or $500.
I've seen them as high as 1,000.
Yeah,
the brand new ones.
Yeah, the brand new ones.
Oh, no, I'm talking about Japanese Squier. I've seen Japanese Squiers go for $1,000 or more in some cases.
Jeez,
that just depends on what it is.
That's not the rule, but still, Jim's right. Those do sell for pretty these days.
Yeah, about $400 or $500. I saw one locally for $700 that was in immaculate shape and it was one of the higher end models.
Yeah,
I was looking. This. Now you can't see it. Let me move a little bit this way. So that red one right there, that was a Closet Queen. That's a 2008. That's a 13-year-old MIM, right? Made in Mexico. I got that thing 2 years ago for my son. That's not mine. That's my son's. And I got it with a case. It still had the plastic on everything. It was bought, put in the thing, and left. It didn't have a scratch. Yeah, it was in a time machine, and I paid $400 with the hard shell case, tweed hard shell case, $400 at Guitar Center, and I was like, I looked over, and I said, "Is that price right?" The guy was like, "Yeah." I go, "Does everything work?" And he said, "Jim, we wouldn't take it in if it didn't work." I said, "Then bag it up." That had to be, it had to be a little over 2 years ago now. So, yeah, that. Now you're not going to touch a Closet Queen like that for that kind of money, and that's just in the last couple of years. Made in Mexicos have gone up. That's just a regular old standard. When they were still making the standards, like I said, it's 2008.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that has been attributed to the fact that just you always see prices of Fenders and Gibsons. The used prices will go up as inflation of their new instruments go up, and of course, I'm sure you guys are aware Fender just had a price increase recently. So, you
Mhm.
know, I don't think it was. In some cases it would be a little more extreme than others, but for the most part, I mean, I've noticed a slight price increase across their product line. Some people are telling me somebody mentioned on my live day that there was a Jackson. It was a Jackson RR1, Pacific RR1 that they were looking at that was $2,500 that or $25.99, and now after the recent price increase, now it's 40 like $4,500 or something like that. So
What?
it went up. It went up like $1,600. I can't verify that. I don't know. He said that was on Sweetwater's website. Again, I don't know how much truth there is to it. Because most of the price increases that I have seen have been 20, 30, 40, $50, depending on what the price was to begin with. So, but what I'm alluding to, whenever Fender raises their prices, current product tends to have also an effect on the used market as well. So, because I remember that very same made in Mexico standard series Strat that you got hanging up behind you, Jim. We were buying those, and when I first started the store, we were buying those in and reselling them for $250 all day long, and all day long. And then by the time I left, they kind of started to creep up to around 300. $299 was a pretty average price on those by then, but $250, $300 all day long.
I mean, at least to my way of thinking, and just talking to the the various stores around here and stuff, like condition doesn't really matter as much when you're on the low end of the market. I mean, it does. They want it to be playable, obviously, but if it's got some bumps and stuff, they're gonna discount the price $10-15. It's not like, oh my god, it's $100 cheaper because it's got the original plastic, or $100 more because it's got the original plastic on it. I mean, it's that's $20 more,
Yeah, I mean, there's when it comes to like new, there's only so much, there's only so many, so much money that like new can get you. Okay,
Right.
Yeah.
I
Oh
guess
yeah.
while I'm on that subject, it never cease to amaze me. I'd answer the phone. Hey man, I got this, this Fender Strat that I bought here a few months back. This thing is brand new, mint condition. This thing's beautiful. What'd you guys give me for it? If it's in the condition you're telling me, give X number of dollars for it. Okay, cool. I'm gonna bring it down. Of course, I bring it in, and it's
Beat the hell.
hell. Pickups have been swapped out. Been refretted. Shit like that. I mean, dude, I thought you said this thing was like, yeah, there's brims, no scratch on it. I said, dude, the pickups aren't original. Where are the original pickups?
Oh
my
yeah.
Well, I
God,
put them in the guitar I wanted to put them into.
yeah. I took them out, changed them out. I didn't like them.
That's what I need to do. I need to buy a Slash Les Paul, swap the pickups out of those
All right,
Slash
all right.
ones, put them in
let's be
mine,
real.
and then
Jim started that
I didn't
sentence
say that,
with,
did I?
Jim started that sentence with what I need to do. Jim, come on. What you want to do, not what
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
do.
I will
yeah, go ahead.
One of the funniest ones I ever saw. This guy brought in this ebony. It was a 70s SG. And he had, this thing had some miles on it anyway. It was banged up. It was. I don't. I think even if it was all original, I don't think it would have been all that great of a guitar. But this dude, had pulled out the original pickups in it. I think it originally had T-tops or something in it. He pulled those out, replaced them with a set of Gibson Tony Iommi signature pickups. Swapped out a few other pieces of hardware and then wanted like $3,000 for this thing, and which at the time, it wouldn't have been worth that much.
It's just upgrade parts.
Well, and that's the thing, the guy that was buying it in, this one wasn't me. This is another associate. He looked at it and said, okay, I got to take some pictures of this thing and send it off to Vintage. But before I do that, I want to be clear on this. You pulled out the original pickups and replaced them with a set of signature pickups designed to emulate the ones that you just pulled out of it. Correct? And the look on the kid's face was, yeah. He didn't occur to him what he had just done.
Well, not until that moment, and then he was like, "Oh
Yeah,
shit!"
yeah. So I can't remember if we ended up buying it in or not.
Well, I was just talking to somebody the other day. Speaking of those style like that era and everything, those style pickups. I was talking to somebody the other day, and like, it kind of blew their mind because they were talking about bursts and burst pickups, and I was like, well, you do realize that you can pull those pickups out of like any guitar from that era of Gibson, right? Because they weren't even earmarking what guitar they were going to go into. They just made a bunch of pickups, a bunch of humbuckers, and they were throwing them in 335s and pretty much every other guitar that had humbuckers at that time period. So I said this whole idea that burst pickups are unattainable is kind of crazy because you can buy a 1961 SG for $7,000 and pull the pickups out of it instead of paying $5,000 for one that came out of a burst. Which
Right.
the parts costs on those guitars is just you got to be shitting me. Okay, so I get the pickup thing because they're all unique and they're all different, but like a knob and the knobs are like $150 or $200 a piece or something, some crazy number like that.
Do you guys follow Ryan Bruce's channel at all?
I watch him every once in a while. He's burned me a couple times.
He's probably one of, if not my favorite guitar channel. I really like some of the stuff he does. But right now he's got this series called Ridiculous Reverb Listings.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Recently,
when he took our stick, I know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, regardless, recently he talked about a listing on Reverb that somebody was trying to get $650 for a set of, I think they were Telly, 50s Telly pickguard screws.
Yeah.
With no provenance whatsoever.
Yep.
They just looked like a set of old screws that honestly could have, come out of a washing machine for all I know.
Yeah. They were just old screws. And it's like, that's the same one. A guy selling a piece of like the original stage from when the Beatles played somewhere. And, but he's got there was another one where the guy, I shared this one with you. We should talk about this one. So, I said, Robert, you got to check this one out. So somebody was selling a Zakk Wylde collection. Now, we're not just talking about the guitars. He had one of every one of the guitars. He had a leather jacket. He had like a, I don't know if Zakk wore it.
Wylde memorabilia.
This dude had a whole shrine.
And, I mean, it's like this sounds like this guy had a semi truck worth of stuff. Which I'm like, I don't mind people collecting like that. That makes but that just seems like somebody really weird to collect from. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna grab that while you guys are talking and put that on.
I could see people. I could see people collecting Dimebag. I could see, and I know they were friends, but I could see people collecting, the Beatles or Led Zeppelin. But
I don't know, man. I'm a little biased because I'm a pretty big Zakk. I mean, Zakk Wylde's one of those guys, that really, really, really inspired me. I mean, the first time that I heard, I'll never forget it. I was driving down Keystone Avenue. I just left school for the day, and I was driving to my part-time job at the time in high school, and I had Ozzy's "No More Tears" record and the CD player, and I was listening to the title track, and the solo came on. It was and it just hit me. I was like, this is freaking badass, and I loved everything about it. And I've been a huge fan of his ever since. So
same.
That said, I get I get why why somebody would think it would be cool to collect it. Now, how much of a market there is for that, on the other hand, that's a different story.
Well, the reason why I brought it up though, and compared him to some of these other records, I'm using household name acts, right? Like I could see somebody collecting a bunch of Pantera stuff, and that would be the closest thing, maybe. But I don't think I could necessarily see somebody collecting like a specific guitar player outside of somebody like Eddie Van Halen or Jimi Hendrix.
I've got the shrine up right now. It's kind of hiding all of our faces. So there it is.
It is it is a pretty impressive collection, and that you're right. He's got literally every wild guitar. There's some pretty cool. I think a framed jean jacket or something that looks like it's autographed. I mean, there's some pretty cool autographed memorabilia.
Yeah,
there
if you go to
as well.
Reverb and just look up Zach Wild collection, you'll find it right away.
What, yeah, but what's
It's
he
the
wanting for it?
$119,000.
Okay, did that come down? Because I thought it was more than that.
No, it was $120,000.
Okay.
But he's not selling everything. He's only selling particular parts of it. But he's literally got a shrine. The first picture is of a shrine with everything.
Oh
in
yeah.
it.
Actually, I don't find that sum to be outrageous for what's
No,
here.
I don't either. Not for what
Mhm.
everything that's there. No, I don't find it super outrageous. And
Yeah,
the
but
stuff he's got listed, it doesn't seem like it's super outrageous. It's just
He's got $10,000 in just the Les Pauls. I mean, and all the autographed memorabilia and all the other stuff. And some of those Les Pauls may be the custom shop models as well.
yeah.
I mean, I'd have to go through all the photos. So he may very well have,
Yeah, he might have
$100,000 worth of stuff. You get paid $20,000 to get it all, kind of deal.
I
But-
don't know, man. Fluff made a pretty good point. I mean, even with the sign, the autographs and provenance and all that stuff. I mean, the guitars themselves are probably worth what, $4, $5, $6 grand. Call it $5 grand a piece, and you add up all the guitars that he sell, and it's nowhere. Even if you throw all the other memorabilia on top of there, you're talking $60,000, $70,000 worth of stuff. And the stuff what he's like of. So
Can we
Well-
can we point out something though?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is in Busan, Korea,
Oh, I didn't notice that.
that I did
which
notice.
makes me wonder if those guitars are even legit. Like I'm sure some of the other stuff is.
I have seen that particular photo. I've seen those photos before. They weren't on a sale listing anywhere. I've seen somebody, I don't know who, but somebody showing, posting those photos on guitar groups on Facebook and stuff like that before. So when Fluff talked about it on his video, that's why I was like, oh, I didn't realize that dude was selling that stuff now. And because I'd seen those photos before, that wasn't the first time I'd seen him. That guy's been, and whoever, I assume it was legit. But now that this guy's listing him in Korea, so that makes me wonder if something fishy's not up with it anyway.
Enjoy your
noticed-
life with Margaret.
Huh?
That's in the bottom corner of one of the pictures, like a watermark.
Yeah, it's like he knows Zach Wild. Some of his inscriptions, the autographs are very personal. So I get the feeling this person is like a real stalker. And Zach Wild's pretty hilarious. I mean, the guy, I got to meet him a long time ago. He's a pretty funny guy. Very, let's just say he knows how to tell a joke and knows how to take one. And I'll just leave it at that. They're not politically correct jokes, so I can't tell any of them. But he's a funny guy. Very funny.
Can I end this? Can I end this whole? Can I end this whole thing with one line from the listing?
Yeah.
All these items were came from Zach Guitar Gallery, which is official Gibson dealer in South Korea.
There you go. There you go.
Interesting.
All these items were came from Zach Guitar
Yeah.
Gallery, which is official Gibson dealer in South Korea.
His English is
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think it's probably
That's-
an instance of Google Translate
I
Yeah,
think
could
so
be.
as well. I think so as well.
That's what I'm thinking.
or whatever the equivalent to Google Translate is over there.
Yeah.
They may not have Google in that part. I don't know.
I wouldn't imagine that's North Korea because I don't think that thing would be listed.
No, it's South Korea. It's South
It's gotta
Korea.
be South Korea.
Busan is South.
Yeah, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about Korea except that I know that we're not going to get any listings like that in North Korea. That's for sure. I think
I'd love
Kim
to know what the
Jong-un
shipping
would
on
tell him,
this
no,
stuff
that's
is."
mine.
I'd love to know what the shipping on this stuff is. Like that's kind of what
Oh.
my thought is. Like, what's the shipping
Yeah,
here?
yeah. I think
Um,
it says free shipping on there, which might be a part of
it
it.
better be for that kind of money.
Better. It better be insured too.
I would
Yeah.
want to fly there and inspect everything seriously.
It cost you $20,000 to ship it.
There was one of them he
Mhm.
did that Fluff did. It's Fluff, right? Ryan Burke. or like not Ryan Burke, well, Ryan.
Ryan
That's Fluff,
Bruce.
right? Ryan Bruce, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Anyway, he
Griff Gear.
what's that? Yeah,
Beards and Gear.
Yeah, Beards and Gear.
Griff, I kind of get the impression he doesn't like me much, to be honest with you. Even though I've had, I really had no direct interaction with him.
Yeah.
But we've got some mutual friends on Facebook, and we've in some mutual groups, and commented on the same threads. He rarely, I'll see him reply to other people.
Yep.
But he never replies to me, like, ever. So
Wow.
I don't even know if he either doesn't know who I am and doesn't, or there's something I've done on my channel struck.
The toxicity of our community.
Yeah.
I'll tell you,
sorry.
it comes right back to that toxicity.
Here's what I think. He posted something in a video a long time. And I took it to heart. He was, and I can't remember. It was like might have been an FAQ Monday video. I don't remember what it was, but he was talking about some other channels. He mentioned some other guitar channels out there that he likes. But then in that same breath, he also said, there's that other group of channels that are basically just rip off of other channels, but we're not going to talk about them. And at that time, I was, I've always been actually really, really inspired by the guy, as far as my channel goes. And, at that time I was really starting my, intros to my videos the same way he was, et cetera, just, because I didn't know what else to do. Admittedly, I'm not the most creative guy in the world, but, finally I heard him say that, and I couldn't help but kind of, sink down in my chair a little bit. And, and that's when I kind of started, that's when I started asking unanswerable questions in the beginning of my videos, or not long. But
What?
I'm wondering if, I don't know that he was directing that at, if I was one of the people he was directing that statement at or not. I don't know. I cannot verify that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it might even be a little bit ridiculous of me to assume that I had, or to assume that he was, but regardless, I did, I took something from what he said, and, and made some changes that I think have probably been, positive changes for my channel anyway. But just between that and his lack of interaction with me in different Facebook groups and threads and stuff like that, kind of makes me ask the question if if he's if I have a bad taste in his mouth for some reason. So
You know what?
if I leave a bad,
Like, I've seen this with other channels and people in this business. We have run into at least one set of individuals that out for us, and I really think people just need to get over themselves. Like, this whole internet thing and guitar and all this isn't big enough community for all of us.
That's right.
Like, realistically, I don't harbor any grudges, even to the people that have said horrible things about us or tried to do awful things to us. I don't give a crap. Like, at the end of the day, like, what they've done is not important to me.
Right.
Because
I agree. I agree completely. I mean, people seem to think that I've got this huge beef against Zevex for whatever reason. That's not true at all. I have nothing against.
I mean,
Zevex.
Same thing Jim and I said. We buy these people a beer, sit down with them, have an interesting conversation with those people. But you know what? Some of these people don't want to have an interesting conversation either. They want to create controversy, and they want to get into a situation where they can not have competition. This is not a competition, folks. It never has been.
Nope.
Music is not a competition, and all the things surrounding music are not really competitive. You can make them competitive if you want to. I mean, of course, business is competitive, but this isn't business. Right. Now, maybe for these people it is because it's their livelihood. At that point, like, I would suggest maybe you should start realizing it's the community that's paying you and making you money, so you want to embrace it instead of throwing it under the bus.
Yeah, it reminds me of this comic creator who said, "If you don't like my politics, don't buy my books." And so people were like,
Fine.
"Okay, I won't buy your books." And then she was like, "You just don't buy my books because you don't like my politics." And she's like, "We're like,
yes,
yeah, isn't that what you said? That's what you told us not to do. Make up your mind." But we got early on. We got accused of being a channel that was a knockoff or whatever of another channel, and we weren't. I did a rant a week ago. I've actually got another rant that's going to be coming up, but I did a rant a week ago where I talked about the origins of the channel, and the reality is that David had a channel going on that was doing a thing with music, that was guitar playing, and I had a channel that was just going to be, well, I was going to create a channel. It was just going to be music, and I thought I did a few things where I was sitting down in front of a camera, and I was like, well, I'm boring by myself, and I need somebody to liven that up. So I don't know how, honestly, David and I somehow connected, and that's how this channel was born 3 years ago now, over 3 years ago. And
Yeah,
so
we're going into year 4.
Yeah.
This is year 4 we're in right now. But it was I had a gear group.
Yeah.
Not gear group. I had a guitar group. I was already a part of all these gear groups, and I saw all these people like, "Oh, I got this pedal and I really thought it was going to make me a better player," kind of conversation. I'm like, "What are you doing? You don't buy pedals to get better." Like, so I started a group that was like a collective where people could share information about how to actually play the damn instrument instead of and that's actually how we sort of hooked up. We knew each other from a couple other groups, but that was really the genesis. I think Jim realized that like I was doing something different and I had a different angle, and I never wanted to do a podcast. This just happened. Like I was like, I don't want to be those other guys. They've all got podcasts and they're doing their thing and they're having a good time with it. Let them do it. So
yeah, that's really how it kind of started. And these guys were like, I just did this because we happen to be part of your group doesn't mean that we were creating anything. We don't do anything like you do. You guys are 3 clowns that are talking to each other every day, and we're not clowning around. I mean, we joke, but we're not clowning around. We're not trying to be, anything you are. We don't.
I would
care.
say, compared to a lot of the other guitar podcasts that are out there, which we're starting to become a YouTube channel more than a podcast, really.
Yeah.
Compared to the other podcasts that are out there, like the ones that we were being compared to were really kind of funny because it was like they really didn't talk about guitars.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, well, that's weird.
Yeah, we've never discussed the Cosby Show. We never asked if your guitar was a character in the Flintstones, what would it be? I mean, we never had anything like that because I always saw that as, what the hell are you talking about? But so I just did, believe it or not, I created a new a thing because David had mentioned to me, he goes, "Hey Jim, you know what you should do is you should look into." It seems like every time I do a gear video, it takes off. So you should probably do a couple more gear videos. And you've mentioned to me I should do a video on my amps. So I said, you know what? Maybe I should do that. So I took this thing and I said, okay, I'm going to do a gear video, and they're going to be gear videos nobody asked for. That's what it's going to be. Gear videos nobody asked for. And I
put those up all the time.
Yeah, and my intro is a voiceover, and I said, I've got "Welcome to the Practical Guitarist Podcast, outdated, unnecessary, and unrequested gear reviews." That's what this is, because I don't care. I realize there's 10,000 freaking by the time I could get a piece of gear, even if I bought it day one. Let's talk about the most recent thing. What was it? The Quad Cortex. Even if I had one on order and I had pre-ordered it 2 years ago when it was announced,
the influencers got it before we did. Doesn't matter. I
wouldn't have got it. And so, what would it matter? Because Fluff had already done a video, and
we don't want to be influencers. We've never been that. We've never been the influencer type anyway. So this is perfect for us to parody the influencer thing in this community.
Yeah, I want to do. I want to do a couple of parodies. I've got a couple. David and I have worked up a couple of things, but we kind of got to be in the same place to do them because we want to do the typical 2 guitar players in a room type thing. But we were going to do the dumpster diver.
I'm very, very careful because I can't say certain things about some of the ones we want to do. I'll tell you after the show, Robert, because I know you won't rip us off. But we got some ideas.
But I've also, You know, I've seen 200 people do the oh, I'm a guitar instructor, and these are 10 things guitar instructors, or 10 things that, 10 songs you should never play at Guitar Center or whatever. I mean,
Mm,
everybody's already done them and overdone them. I want to do something different. I want to do something funnier. I want to do something more alive. Um, and to, I want people to be able to feel that they can laugh. I used to enjoy Stevie T, but he's gone over the edge. I mean, that
Yeah,
guy
like he's crossed over from being a guitar player, like comedian
really
thing,
good
to just being
too.
like a comedian. And
Yeah,
it's like
mm.
that's all he wants to do now, and it's to the point where it's almost like very offensive comedy.
and
Uh, to a lot of people, yeah, and in his defense, God, he only posts about one video a month these days. And I don't know if you guys have seen that new house that he just bought,
No,
I
I know.
but
know,
that
Jesus.
wow. I
Well,
mean,
The
let's
Canadian housing market's a little bit different than the housing market here in the states.
yeah,
Still,
yeah,
he
and I
bought a
recognize
really
that, but
big
still,
house on a
he
big piece of land.
he bought a huge house on a huge property out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, regardless, I mean, you cannot deny YouTube has been very, very good to him
Yep.
Yeah, it has. Well,
overall.
he's closing in
He
on 3 million subscribers now, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen. I mean,
Yeah, I believe
last
so.
I knew he was well over 2 million.
Yeah,
Um,
he hit the 2 million
so
a few months
Yeah,
ago.
he's kicking it for 3 right now. That's exactly where he's headed.
I was
wow,
watching.
he may have passed Jared by now then, because
Yeah.
Jared hit a million, and then he hit 2 million really quickly after that.
Well,
And
so I was watching Keith
there,
Williams that did a thing about some analytics on that, Robert, and it's interesting to see that once you hit a certain point, you'll get subscribers because YouTube throws you into more feeds. And
yep,
so what happens is, he was talking about your numbers. He sees 500-600 subs a day. This is Keith
mm,
Williams, who's not even a million yet.
All right,
And
so currently Stevie T is behind him with 2.43. Jared Dines has right at 2.93 million.
yeah,
But
and I don't think Jared is doing a lot of videos anymore for some
he's
reason.
he's he's
he's tapering
plateaued
off a
quite
lot
a
as
bit because
well.
he's been sitting around 2.7 to 2.9 for quite some time now.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
but there are
he's tapering off quite a bit too. Rick
there's a
Beato,
yeah.
same thing. After he hit a million, I think or close to it. Yeah, and I've noticed the same thing. Once you hit a certain, and I think it's tiered.
Yeah.
I've never read any official formal report on the parameters of the YouTube algorithm, but as far as subscribers go, it seems to be that it's tiered. Once you hit a certain number of subscribers, then they start blasting your video out to a larger audience of X number of times. And I think it happens when when you hit 100,000, because I've noticed channels grow really rapidly once they hit 100,000. Guitar Max, for example, he hit 100,000 what 6 months ago, maybe not even. Now he's over 130.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the other day, and good for him. And that's again that couldn't have happened to a better guy, in my opinion.
Yeah, we've had him
Um,
on the show.
yeah, I know you have. He's a great guy,
Yep.
and so we've done, there's that, and then there seems to be again, it's something that happens at about the 250 300 range, and again 500, and then a million.
Yeah.
So be where I'm at, I mean, meanwhile I've scratched and clawed my way, and I'm at 23,000.
Yeah,
So
I've seen that. Once
I
you
don't know if I'm hoping that I get a small bump when I hit 25, because
yeah.
when I've noticed, my buddy Stay Metal Ray, I don't know if you guys follow his channel or
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
He started a few years after I did, and he was pretty much behind me, and then he passed me a few months ago. And once
He
he hit 25,
There was
now
something.
he's up
Isn't he
over.
the guy that just he bought a Les Paul for his birthday or something? Is that
Yeah,
Stave Metal Ray? Yeah.
bought him,
He
yep,
he
he
just
bought
popped
himself
into
Les
my
Paul for his
feed.
birthday.
Yeah, he popped
Mhm.
into my feed, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
I'll
You know
watch
what's
him.
amazing to me? This is just an observation. So we're talking about YouTube and the guitar culture and all this. Jared Dines, right? So he's one of the older guitar YouTubers in terms of being on the platform and getting a ton of
he's,
subscribers.
yep, I'd call him an OG. Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like there's like Henning Pauly and like Ola and those guys have been
Henning's
around
newer.
for. Is
Henning's
Henning?
newer. I think he, you know, I mean, he's been doing it longer than me, but you know, Henning's probably been 7 or 8 years. But I think Henning, you know, kind of, you know, he was a little bit more like me in that, you know, he's kind of had a slow burn, you know, all the way, you know, to start out with, because it hasn't been all that long ago since he just hit that 100,000 subscriber.
So like,
Like
well, one
that's
thing is
just
like
happened for him within the last year.
one thing is about like Ola, the Tone King, you know, Jared, and I'm just thinking about the
Flo,
fact that like, yeah, and obviously Ryan
Nate,
Bruce as well.
yeah,
Just thinking about the fact that like these guys have built these channels over, you know, a 10, 12-year period, and obviously the algorithm has changed along that time period, and so it has benefited and probably set them back at some point as well. Um, but I'm just thinking like in the popular culture, TV series don't last 12 years. So what happens to these guys in another 4 or 5 when they've just kind of like aged out of, you know, the popular demographic? Are they going to shift their focus? Or because like I'm already thinking of people like Ola and Ola's great. Like I absolutely love Ola. I've been watching him for probably since he was doing his not even the Does It Chug series, but like back in the very beginning where he was just playing like through weirdo amps, just giving
yeah.
you like this will it do metal, you know? And he wouldn't even talk back then.
Is
Um,
Ola
Mhm.
is Ola the one that did Toto's Africa, like really metal version of it?
no,
Who was
Ola.
it?
Oh, you're thinking of Leo Maracchioli, Frog Leap Studios.
Ah,
Yep.
Frog Leap. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Who is Ola England? I hear a lot about him, but I've never seen.
He's a Scandinavian guy. You probably have seen him. You just don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'll send you his channel. I'll send you his channel after the show's over. But anyway, Ola is interesting because he's in a genre, but he's like the 10-year-old version of the genre he's in right now. Where meaning like he's into the kind of metal and plays the kind of metal professionally. And he's a fantastic player. But the metal he's into is like the stuff from the early 2000s through 2010, whereas now we have this whole gent movement that's pretty much redefined that genre, and I don't feel like he's in any way interested in it. And I'm like, at some point, he's going to age out, and only the people that are, you know, fans of the music, that generation of music that he's into, are going to be like really tuned in. But that's okay. I mean, as long as it's still paying the bills, right? It's not the big issue. But I'm just thinking, like, when are at some point, some of these YouTube guys are going to have to back up and go, how do I make a career out of this? You know, like how do I make a like a lifelong career out of this? You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. I think a lot of that also has to do with, you know, what I've noticed this with my own audience. You know, a lot of it I think is just, you know, people gravitate towards artists that are, you know, they're in their own age bracket. You know, I mean, look at Pete Thorne.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, for example, I mean, you know, Pete's, I mean, you know, the style of music he plays. You know, he's a rock guy. He's a hard rock guy, and he can play metal, of course. You know, that dude could snap off a tree branch and string it up and make it sound good. But, um, you know, but he, you know, I mean, you know, his wheelhouse is rock and hard, and you know, and Gibsons and, you know, old Marshalls and, you know, of course his signature stuff. But, you know, if you hang out with him on his live streams, you know, and he attracts probably, you know, 5, 6, 700 people every single week on his live shows. But, you know, most of
yeah,
the people that are in those chats are, you know, you know, mid late 40s, which is about how old he is.
right.
You know, same thing with me. A lot of guys that are, you know, hanging out with me on my live streams, you know, watch my videos regularity are, you know, are about my age, you know, or maybe even a little bit older, you know, because like you just mentioned, I don't get into the gent stuff. You know, man, you know, I would struggle naming 5 gent bands if you made me. You know, it's just I'm at that age, you know. You know, I quit buying new, you know, every single new, you know, new record from every new band that came out a long time ago.
Yeah,
Um,
I got to
you
remember
know,
that this is an enthusiast game too, where you know really you're appealing to people who are already into what you're into,
mhm,
and that's the base they already have basically at this point. And so like
right,
age in music is weird because people aren't it's not like technology where people are always wanting to find the latest and greatest and the newest things that are out there. It's very
right,
much like what did I grow up with kind of scenario for a lot of folks.
hmm,
Um,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
the one guy that the only one that out of this entire group of people, I'm looking at the featured channels on your channel they're like down below the other places you can go, which is partially the algorithm, I think.
One time I used to be able. I haven't looked at that in a long time. I used to be able to adjust that myself, but
Yeah, but
well, it's some part of it anyway. I haven't looked at that in forever.
The only one that bothers me is the Tone King. I cannot believe that man has 106,000 subscribers today.
I can't believe he has 6,000 subscribers. I just don't get him. I don't get his channel. I just don't get it. I'm not saying that he's bad. I'm just saying that I don't get it.
To be honest with you, I don't think he's. I hope I'm not shooting myself in the foot for saying this, but I don't think he's too much different from me. He's a gearhead that loves guitar gear, and he's got a big collection.
I don't want to say it. I don't want to say this in public, but I will say it on the show just because I feel like it's necessary. I have never heard the Tone King play a piece of gear and gone, "Wow, that sounds good."
Yeah,
I have heard things on your show and gone, "Yeah, that sounds good."
Yeah, not once. And the other difference, I think it's and not to say anybody's again, it's always subjective, right? He just doesn't come across as genuine. He always comes across like a used car salesman to me. He's just got that vibe, and it might be just because remember I'm from New York, he's from Jersey, and there's that. So it could literally be the New York or New Jersey thing that's why he comes across me like a used car salesman, and so I don't dig it. And I used to see Steve from Boston stuff, and lately I don't see anything from him. YouTube just stopped showing me his stuff. It was like, I don't know if he exists, doesn't exist. I don't search it. A lot of these channels
I've noticed that'll happen too, because there'll be a channel, that I'm interested in for whatever reason, and I watch a few of their videos, and then YouTube will start showing me more of their videos in my feed. And then if it's nothing I'm not interested in, and I don't click on any of them, then they stop. So, but the videos that in related channel videos that I am showing an interest in based on my activity,
yeah,
of course, that's what they're putting in front of me because they're trying to give views out of me just like they're everybody else.
Yeah.
I think that algorithm has a lot of issues. I think that the way it operates is it looks to see what you're interested in by how long you mouse over things and how long you click on things. And I think it also looks at the statistics that we have available to us as YouTube creators, where we can see average length of view for a video. And I think that's a big part of the game. And if somebody's not making content that's long enough and it doesn't have a sustained audience, then you get lower in the listings. And I think it's way more automated, and that's why YouTube can't tell us how it works.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's very really necessarily know how it works.
Can't or won't tell us.
I think it's both. I think it's both. No, I think it's both.
Yeah,
I honestly think it's
a little bit of both, because if you think about it, if your programmer sat down and you've written all these algorithms, but 20 other programmers have written algorithms for you, and you and I are both in that world, sometimes that person has left. Maybe the documentation wasn't that good. Maybe or you just don't know what their algorithm, because an algorithm is a difficult thing to read, even if you wrote
a lot of the social media algorithms, especially the stuff that's really from big companies like Alphabet / Google and Facebook in the last 5 years, aren't really even like a programmer sitting there and coming up with the logic for how this works. It's literally AI training, where they say, this is the outcome we want, go and get it.
Yep.
And it figures out, and it starts rolling dice to figure out how to get there.
That's right.
And Google is at the forefront of that technology. So when YouTube started changing their algorithms 5-6 years ago, they started baking in more AI to the platform, and I think that threw everything for a loop. So for a while there, the reason why the countdown videos, like everybody was doing like top 3, top 5, top 10 countdowns, was because the human brain is wired to like those.
Speaking of that one, there was a
reason why I did those videos, is because the human, it's just natural human instincts, that we like those things. We like numbers, we like countdowns,
and
we like small ones.
Rankings.
And because we do, the algorithm gamed that. and it said that those videos should be higher up in the rankings, and so that worked for a while. Now I noticed that those are sort of starting to drop off now, which is almost like people got sick of them, and so now it's self-modifying and changing the patterns.
Yeah, so top 10s used to be a big thing. Actually, it was top 100s. We went top 50s, top 20s, so on and so forth. Top 10s were big. Now it's top 5s. They've really gotten small, and they want them pinpointed. They want them precise. And there was an English, not Andertons. There was another English. What's that?
I said I've got a top 17 coming out here in a couple of weeks.
Do you? Yeah, you might want to pare it down. No, but
a couple extras.
But seriously, yeah, and they like round numbers. I don't know why, but that's why people will do like top 10, and then they'll do honorable mentions or a top 20 with honorable mentions. But anyway, so what I was saying is that there's this thing where there was this English channel. I don't remember who it was because they haven't shown up my feed in forever. It was like Andertons, but it was 3 guys. One was named Joe, and I can't remember the other 2 guys. And they had a channel where they would do top 5s, top 5 of this, top 5 of that, and then they disappeared. I don't know if the store shut down because of the COVID thing. I don't know, but they literally, and they disappeared quite a while before that. So I don't know if it was something else, but they used to do a podcast. It was one of the first podcasts. I think that the first 2 podcasts I listened to were 60 Cycle Hum, and them, and then I might have listened to Wampler way back in the beginning. And unfortunately I caught Wampler right before they stopped because it was like, oh, now these guys are leaving, You
listened to him back in the Travis Feaster days.
Yeah,
yep.
Travis was still on.
Yeah, Travis.
Yeah, he seems like a really, he seems like a really genuine guy, really, really good dude.
He's hilarious. I sell him gear, all the time at Guitar Center.
Yeah,
and he's I've known Travis. I've been friends for well over 10 years now. So, great guy.
Yeah,
love the guy to death.
And he's selling. Is he still selling planes or something or jets?
Nope. He moved on from that, and I know we got his real estate license.
Oh.
And I think he's got he's doing something else on the side. I don't know. He's he and I have talked about that, but I don't want to divulge too much about his his full-time professional career.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how much of that he wants me.
Yeah. Well, I know
but
he was
still
doing
around.
Yeah, I know he was doing jets and stuff. So he had left the MI for almost completely, except for doing the gigs the one-off gigs. He's a really good guitar player too. But
really.
Yeah, the reason I bring that up is because you see these, like we were talking about Stevie T. So here's a guy that's looking to get 3 million subscribers, and like there's only so many times you can dress as your sister and kick a bottle and do weird sounds, and that's gonna, there's a reason that there's only so many videos from, TV shows or movies, whatever they were doing at the time, from the Three Stooges. It's because you can only take so much slapstick, and then you've got to have something that's meaty in between. You know what I mean? That's why South Park has lasted 20-something years. It's because there's always that little bit of meat on the bone that you could still pick off and consume. That's not just cardboard cutouts calling each other asshole and stuff. And so it just, it always seems to me that and there will be a cyclical thing. It's always going to move in a circle, because what's old is new. I mean, I've noticed.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I've heard the theory. I've heard some creators theorize. Ryan Bruce, it was said, YouTube is not always going to be around.
No.
Eventually something is going to come to replace it, and the argument could be made that may have already happened with Twitch and Vimeo
and TikTok.
TikTok, could be. I don't know. I mean, I think right now, YouTube is still the big boy, but they've definitely got more competition now than they used to.
So the interesting thing about the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I said, no problem. I personally don't think YouTube is going anywhere anytime soon, as long as are still owned and operated purely by Google. Of course, one of the tech conglomerates on the planet. So, I think if they will be able to, if YouTube will be able to adapt to, what the world is doing, what and consumers want, they will. So, I don't foresee that changing anytime soon. The day is going to come that that they're AOL Instant Messenger eventually got discontinued. So, I mean the theory is there, and it certainly is a viable way that YouTube is not going to be 20 years. By then it'll be something completely different. And I hope whatever it is, I'm smart enough to get in early. Um, I wish I had gotten in on YouTube. I did, to be honest.
So I sort of agree. I think there is potential for another platform at some point in the future. I don't think any of the platforms that are out there right now really hold a candle to what YouTube provides because they have an audience.
Mhm.
Maybe TikTok, but TikTok is super short videos. They got the corner on that market, and that's kind of the reason why I'm like looking at these other platforms like Vimeo and stuff. Vimeo is basically YouTube for business, right? That's they've definitely carved out that niche. You've got TikTok, which is short videos, which is a competitor for Instagram at this point because Instagram, even though it's a mostly picture oriented thing, was also becoming a video platform for very short form videos. Um, Twitch, Twitch does not want to be a provider of long form video streaming from their site like the same way that YouTube does. I don't think they even want to try to go toe to toe. And it's kind of funny. I watched a live stream tonight. It was not a music related live stream, but I watched a live stream tonight where the guy was talking about he streams on Twitch a lot, and he says I have had nothing but problems with YouTube streaming because there are so many other little like technical checkboxes and stuff to fit into how they want to handle their situation. And it's just kind of interesting to me because like YouTube would love to corner that market, but it hasn't happened yet, right? And it
Right.
could, but even he said the reason why I'm over on YouTube right now is because the audience here is always bigger. And he said I could do all my other little stuff over there, but when I'm doing something like trying to break a record, then I'm going to come over here because I want people to actually see it. So I did my first
Reason
Twitch
why
live.
that- That's the reason why I haven't gone to any other platforms is because my audience on YouTube is bigger and will always be bigger than anywhere else.
The
So,
communities are very different though. And that's what I found. So like I've been over on Twitch playing video games and
mm,
I'm doing guitar over there. I did my first live stream this weekend and it was really interesting and it was everybody who's in there I think except for one person was people who listen to the show. Um and it was just interesting because I'm watching my wife's having a lot of success. She has a streaming channel, and she's getting rated, and people are coming in there, and and of course a lot of people say, "Oh, it's because she's a woman." Like everybody likes to look at women on Twitch or whatever, and that's really not what's happening. It's funny because it's like mostly housewives and that kind of stuff who are also doing it. And they have like this very tight knit community, but because the chat is so interactive, and because every video that goes on over there, all of the live streams that go on there are all chat oriented and there's so many tools for interacting with the chat and going back and forth, it breaks the paradigm that YouTube already had, which is that we have those features too because Twitch had them first, but most people who are familiar with YouTube are passive. Like they watch videos passively. And so you get 600 people on a live stream, not 600 people chatting. If you've ever watched 600 people on a Twitch live stream, it's you can't even follow the chat. It's like what the hell is going on here? Um
right.
and it's really wild because it's just a whole different like the community over there is very fervent. They're very very active. These people are watching Twitch streams all day long. They're interacting with their favorite people on a day-to-day basis inside and outside of it. Discord, the application we're using right now to do this video, I would say probably 50% of its existence right now is owed to Twitch communities run by creators on Twitch
Hmm.
to give benefits to their fans and direct access to them. You can build your own social media in Discord, and that is
Wow.
like really really wild that it's happening the way. In fact, my wife joined a Discord from one of the people she follows, and there's like 4,000 people in this Discord channel, and it's all people that have some level of access to this person. through their their Twitch streaming. Now, I'm not advocating anybody go over there. I'm just saying like it's a new frontier, and I don't think YouTube's gonna get replaced. I think it could, but I really don't think it will. It'll be like
Right.
Facebook. People thought Facebook was dead 3 years ago, 4 years ago. They were declaring the death of Facebook. I remember it. And I was like,
Mhm.
according to who? Twitter's got nobody on it. Instagram's
Right.
popular, but like
Mhm.
Twitter has 20% of the people that are on Facebook. 20%. Now, how many of those are bot
Wow.
accounts? I don't know. Instagram Instagram.
Facebook owns Instagram.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nope. Nope. I don't have any television.
Yeah, I still do. I still do, and honestly, I still enjoy it. I'm hoping it doesn't, it doesn't go anywhere. And honestly, it's finally starting, because there are so many people that are, you know, cutting the cord, so to speak, and going to all streaming services and things of that nature. There's so many people that are doing that. The cable companies now are finally a little bit more apt to start lowering their prices to keep their customers around. And honestly, I've got the same packages I've had for over a decade now, and I'm paying less for it now than I ever have. So,
If the programming comes down in price, they might make a go of it. In our area, it's still going up. That's why
is that
more
right?
people are cutting the cord. Yeah, we have
Mhm.
Comcast in our area, Xfinity,
Yeah,
Universal, right? Universal Media Group.
yeah, we've got AT&T. Mm, right. Mm,
Yeah, same here.
mm. You, you probably need it for your full time job, though, I would assume. Okay.
Yeah,
Never. Right. I think they call
I've
that
been
trolling.
stung a lot of times. Let's just put it that way.
I think they call that trolling. But go ahead.
But
Right.
I'm a troll. I am. Right.
Right.
She
I
sounds
DVR most.
hideous.
Yeah, I DVR most of that stuff. fast forward through it anyway. So yeah. Hmm.
I don't
So
have one
buy
of
me
those.
then. Mm, right. Hmm. Right. Hmm. Yep. I can see in my analytics, the YouTube, how much YouTube Red users. So, yep. Mm.
Or watch your stuff when you're mobile and all the other pieces of that.
I was research and I was researching it pretty heavily a few years ago because I was thinking of cutting and doing exactly what you were doing. Buying an antenna and so I could still get local news and live sports and stuff, and then divvying the rest of it up between Netflix and Hulu, and I did the math, and with especially with the streaming packages, and Hulu was one of the biggest culprits of this. You have to A, B, and there was some things that I wanted in A that and quite a bit that I didn't care about, and there were some things that I wanted in B that I didn't care about. And I'm pretty sure that they've ran a study or an algorithm to make sure that that happens with most people. So you got to subscribe to them twice, and again. The culprits, I looked at the PlayStation, what the PlayStation TV or whatever their
That's
streaming
gone
service.
now. Doesn't exist.
They'll I'm not surprised because it wasn't yeah, it wasn't worth it at all. And all right. Mm, mm. Are they not still on Comedy Central anymore? But you don't have cable. You don't have it on cable. FYI, I'm just not to interrupt, but I may have to step away here for just 4 or 5 minutes here in a minute. FYI.
Oh, for sure.
Sorry. been the case for if some of the people that have watched my YouTube videos are any indicator, that's been the case for a while already. That's that's why I haven't. Yeah, I do too.
I was as well, but you know, I think part of the it's like the TikTok thing for me. Like, I didn't think there was much musical community on TikTok. And, I'm trying not to talk too much while Robert's away. But the weird thing about the TikTok thing for me was that um, it wasn't as interactive as something like Twitch was, and I think that interactivity, especially in the pandemic, has been like the sole reason that that service continues to take off the way that it does. And their expansion into music is really interesting because, and that's been going on. I mean, they've had the music side of it for like 7 years, almost the entire time of the platform. And what's interesting about it is you go on there, there's not a lot of bands. There's bands on there, right? There actually are. There's not a lot of them, and almost everybody is a DJ. Almost everybody's got two turntables and a microphone. And it's kinda shocking to me. It's like, does this reflect on the culture of the people that use Twitch, which I think it does, or does this reflect on the culture as by and large that the majority of musicians who actually play real instruments, and I'm turntables could be an instrument. I mean, that's we could debate that, but I think that people who play real instruments tend to be older and have already aged out of Twitch to some extent. No, we did. We did. We've talked about that on the show before. The problem is the technology to do it, and I think people have already started to realize you need to have a decent camera, you need to have decent audio. The technology to do it is not super easy. I watched a band the other day who were exceptionally good at it, right? But they posted in their chat like a flow chart of their studio. They had 9 computers running on that stream, and they were all doing different things. And I just looked down through the list of what they were doing. I was like, wow. I was like, that's a lot of investiture for they, and that this is how many followers they had, like 850 followers. And I'm going, whoa.
Mhm.
Yeah. To
Mark,
put some
working on.
context. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, to put some context around this, we were talking about a Twitch stream I saw the other night where the guys had like 7 computers running.
Wow.
And they were all doing different things, and they had 6 cameras, 7 computers, and literally their entire set list, like, and you could just go into the chat and request a song. Their entire set list has pre-programmed for all the camera changes and stuff at various times within the songs. And I was like, this is like another level. And I told Jim, I said, what amazed me was they only had like 862 followers, which means like they have a really small audience for this. Like
Mhm.
what the hell? Like they're setting the bar pretty damn high for that level of audience.
Well, and the market on streaming gear has exploded, obviously due to COVID. But and we see it all over the place where it's exploding on the consumer level. But what what you may not realize is, I mean, we sell. What one of the biggest things that I'm doing right now is selling streaming packages to churches, mega churches in particular. And they're buying commercial cameras. Buying 6, 8,000 Panasonics. They're buying
Yeah,
they're buying big.
Panasonics and Red cameras and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're buying big boy stuff, and they're buying switchers, and they're buying $2,000 capture devices,
Right.
and high powered computers and servers because they've got congregations that got 2, 3, 4,000 people in them. They can't come to church every week anymore because of COVID. So now they're streaming on their websites. They're streaming on YouTube. They're streaming all these other platforms. And and it's whether they don't seem to like to admit it, but churches or businesses, you know they need a congregation, they need donations, and they need money to, period, end.
Well, and it's an investiture. It's an investiture too. They might actually have money in the coffers already, and when this
Mhm.
happens, they go and they take that money out, which is really wild because when you see a streamer do it, they've got 862 followers. They're a church. You go, yeah, they got enough money to afford that. But if they're a
Mhm.
streamer, you're going, they don't have enough money to afford that. Like,
Right. Yeah, there's it's on the small business level. I've got a customer right now, as a matter of fact. She's a yoga instructor, and she had to shut her studio down, and she had to start instructing from home for the time being. So she called me up, and she's like, she really didn't know who she was calling. I think she was just calling Guitar Center, and somehow it got routed at GC Pro and happened to come to me. And she's like, I have no idea what I need, how any of this works. I am as green as I can be. And I said, well, you're talking to the right guy because I've been through this and I got a pretty good idea what you're going to need. And I ended up setting her up with, the stuff that she ended up getting from me was pretty nominal because everything else she needed was consumer level cameras like this. As a matter of fact, she got that, she bought the same model that I'm using right now, based on my suggestion. And I think she got a Cam Link, which was perfect for her.
right.
Doesn't work for you guys, but for her, it's working perfect. So
Well, it's held out through the stream because I haven't tripped the autofocus to go. I don't know. I can't see a face here.
your video, uh, y- your video, by the way, David, looks better than I've ever seen it
Yeah, it's
by a lot.
fantastic. It's fantastic. It's like on another level.
Yeah,
I have reached video nirvana.
yeah, yep. I was in high
Are you
school and
kidding me?
college.
I'm a '90s kid. I love that stuff. I can remember the '80s, and I was like, you know, 3, 4. Yeah. Yeah, it was like a Joe Bonamassa show.
Cardboard cutouts. Cardboard cutouts and WW people paid money for the for the NFL to do that.
Yeah.
Like, like people were paying like $100 for, to have their cardboard cutout in a seat there. So, NFL, leaving, yeah.
I would put a
So
big one of these. It's gonna
I
autofocus
think
on it. Come on.
I think they drew the line at the bull stuff, but knowing the NFL, but
Well,
uh,
shit, I want my money back.
oh well, yeah, like you watched the Super Bowl.
No, I did not.
I know you didn't. Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
Same here. Same here. I mean, I was going through that same thing. Like they were the rebellious outsider, counterculture thing.
Well, when I was, when I was, yeah, when I was a kid, it was, I mean, I actually grew up in the hair metal stuff as well. That scene very, very vividly. And Metallica in particular. Metallica, you guys know this, my all-time favorite band.
Yeah,
And
for your generation, it was
when
probably like Slayer and Metallica, because Slayer was
Mhm.
kind of a counterculture thing
Yeah,
in a
but
very different, and even in a very different way than Metallica. Slayer was very counterculture, like
yeah, but
pentagrams on the records, and
I was right when Nirvana hit, when I can't think of the name of that album now. Never mind. Well, Nevermind came. I was in junior high, and and the entire world flipped. All of a sudden, nobody gave a
the shit
rat's
about hair metal.
ass.
Yeah,
Nobody gave a shit at all about my Rat records, my Judas Priest, all the stuff that I had on
all
cassette
the
tape,
good
guitar,
stuff, the stuff that's
all
worth
the
listening to.
right, all the stuff that nobody cared, and nobody cared about that stuff anymore. Megadeth, none of it. You know, yeah. Well, anyway, that was interesting, and Gene Simmons talked about this in his book, in his autobiography. Is because a lot of the people, a large contingency of people that were into the '80s hair metal stuff. That we didn't call it hair metal then, but we do now. The genre of music that was singing about things like sex and money and rock and roll lifestyle, stuff like that. Then all of a sudden Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden got popular, and they
Made
were
that
singing
uncool.
right. They made, comparatively speaking, the stuff that they were singing about kind of made you want to blow your head off, right? uh,
Uh,
you know,
I mean,
and
maybe I think that kind of fits the genre motif.
it was a much darker genre with much darker lyrical content. So the people that were not into that all, ironically, gravitated towards gangster rap, and I was actually one of them. I was really, really big into NWA and the Ghetto Boy, Eazy-E, and later on Snoop Dogg and Dr. I was real into a lot of, and nowadays, of course, it's all of it's a lot more acceptable, and there wasn't this,
It-
you weren't looked down upon for liking any of those, any one of those three different genres of music like you were then, at least in my age bracket, you know.
yeah,
So
and
I felt that
hip
I
hop
felt that I
today is totally
couldn't
different
listen to,
too.
yeah, I don't have much use for any of it today, to be honest. But but I do still like the old stuff that I used to like as a kid. But there was a time I remember as a kid, I felt that I would be shunned or looked down upon, or or made fun of, or whatever it might be, if I let anybody know that I still like Motley Crue. You know, um, and it was really a really really sad time period for music, to be honest with you. I wasn't a fan of a lot going on until the late '90s, when things finally started to get heavier again. Bands like White Zombie and later on Rob Zombie, bands like that started to make a bigger name for themselves. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Right.
uni or Univox High Flyer into a
Hmm.
DS1, or or a Big Muff.
They weren't playing their you know, $3,000 shredder guitar. Yeah, it was. You're right. Everything was completely different, because this one thing back in the '80s. I've said this for years. If you weren't shredding, you weren't playing. I mean, end of story. I mean, that's just the way it, every single one of those bands, even the more obscure ones, that didn't, may not have had as much success. Every single one of those guys all had
I was
monster guitar players. I remember reading specific, interviews, an interview specifically with um, Jeff Pilson of Dokken, and he said in that interview, their marketing plan all along from the get go was to push George Lynch, because he was such a monster guitar player. He said the idea all along was to push George, and that's why they were successful.
That band
The
has
fact
some
that,
really funny music videos. I was
yeah,
watching one
well,
the other day where he had the chains on the guitar, his strings, George Lynch, and I was like, "Oh my god, you're kidding, right?"
side note, if go check out a video. It was a video by David Hasselhoff. I'll send you the link. Called "True Survivor." And if you do not have the biggest '80s boner by the time that thing is over,
Yeah.
then there's something wrong with you, because that is like the best 3 or 4 minutes of dripping with '80s awesomeness that you will ever see, ever.
Well, that the video I was talking about was "Breaking the Chain," by the way.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny if you want to
No,
go check it out, but I'm sure
back
you've seen
back
it. But
yeah, but back then when it came out, what was that, '86, something like
yeah, it was
that?
probably groundbreaking. It was like, holy crap! Like,
Well, and
yeah,
or it was very normal, for what
or tongue in cheek. Like they were kind
yeah.
of making a joke. But um, man, we gotta be pushing 3 hours here, Jim.
2.5. So
Okay.
I just want to say this. Number one, I was on mute. I don't know how long. Um, so
Good.
what I was telling these guys that you guys might not have heard, I was talking about countercultures and how you can find countercultures all over the place. I also was talking about how bands are starting to pull back. I mean, Nirvana pulled away from that super expensive gear, and we're seeing that in the communities now. We're seeing people, no, I'm going to play a Squier and I'm going to love it, or I'm going to play, and that's what I'm trying to get at with the videos I'm getting ready to do.
Crowd is real big into that.
Let's not spend a lot of money. Let's pull back, which is actually counter culture to the culture we're in, because there's so many people. It's like, I got to buy this. So many channels that I think to myself, God, you're just asking people to spend money constantly. And you Robert, you don't you go over gear that's old and not always, but you go over a lot of older gear that you can find at pawn shops still. You can find it in the local mom and pop or Guitar Center for a lot of times $50. To $100. You don't have to go out and buy the newest thing from whoever, Chase Bliss and whatever audio and everything else. I mean, look at all the stuff that all these folks are shilling. And I shouldn't use the word shilling, because that's a little disingenuous to some of them. Some of them are shilling.
Some of them are shillers. We know who that is.
Yeah, there are shillers, but some of them are being rat shill. But there's these.
If he was a wrestler, his name might be Rhett the Shill.
Oh my God! So anyway, yeah, Robert's a wrestling fan. He knows where that comes from. But it's like what I'm trying to say is, I think that more people want to see. Have you ever noticed, though, a lot of times the best moving videos are the ones that are actually about the cheap shit. Look at all these YouTube channels that could do really expensive stuff. And Guitar Max.
We had him on the show. I mean, his channel has taken off, and all he does is review things that are like super inexpensive.
Yeah.
And by super inexpensive, like things that I wouldn't buy. Okay. Like I'm taking it back on his channel all the time, because I do watch it and I'm like, dude, where do you even find Sonic Cake? Like,
Yeah, I watch him a lot too, and he demoed that Kramer Beretta that he paid like $179 for, or something like that. Kramer Beretta, you can't buy that model anymore. So I'm sure his video had a lot to do with that, but because now they've raised the price on them, bastards.
Oh, of course.
But yeah,
I mean. That's what happens. But you take Glary, for instance. All of a sudden, everybody's doing a Glary video.
I did mine.
Yeah, they sent you one. I know, I saw yours. You definitely did not shill that product. That is something you did not do.
Nope.
Robert, if there's anything we can take away from your show and that we should pass on to our listeners, part of the reason why Robert's still coming back on the show, we still talk to Robert, and Robert, like, we give him like kind of special treatment, is because Robert's genuine. Like, you watch some of these other guys and you can tell that they're like, this product's not that great, but they sent it to me for free, so I'll give them a decent rundown. If they're not talking opinion in the middle of their video, then you can tell that's, hey, we got this product for free kind of thing. And they're legally supposed to tell you that. But I know for a fact there have been several videos from several people, and I won't mention names, who they got something for free and they didn't disclose it in their video. And the video actually did very well for the product too. That's like a whole other ball of wax when you start talking about the legality of it. But I applaud you for at least having integrity enough to say, hey, I bought this Fuzz Factory and it sucks. Now, we all know you already had a Fuzz Factory at some point before that, and you got that somebody sent you that so you could do the video. But
no, that was that one. I the one that was in the Fuzz Factory, the now infamous Fuzz Factory video. I bought that one.
Oh, I thought somebody sent you something that you reviewed and you were like not super thrilled with it or whatever. Maybe I'm thinking something else.
That's happened before. That happened with the Glary guitar. They did send me that guitar, and I didn't pay for it. And I'm sorry. It's sure the music won't take it. I've still got it sitting here. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it.
And you're stuck with it.
It's worth mentioning that Share the Music is a foundation that Robert is partnered with to provide music. And is it just in the Indianapolis area, or?
I mean, primarily they're really do primarily. Most of the donations that they take are local. There has been some people that some viewers that have watched my channel from other parts of the country and sent them stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sure.
they've wanted to donate. So, they've their one instance in particular was actually another friend of mine who was at the time he still is a teacher for special needs students.
Hmm.
But this is when he was he was teaching at another school from where he is now. But he wanted to get his students at that time involved in music, him being a musician himself, and Share the Music were the ones that made it happen. Got a hold of a couple dozen acoustic guitars or whatever it was that he needed, for that particular, for his class. So, they made it happen.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think that's super cool that you partnered with somebody like that. We haven't had a whole lot of charitable opportunities on the show, which is why we haven't. Nobody's approached us. If they would, we'd be like, all right, yeah, go for it. But I think it's super cool that you're involved in that. I wanted to mention that to our show listeners. If you're ever looking for some place to donate an instrument, consider Share the Music in Indianapolis.
Yep. Everything all the donations they receive, they go to children, that might not be able to afford, they wouldn't be able to otherwise afford an instrument on their own. Same with schools and their music programs that can't afford their own instruments, churches, places that need instruments, they can't afford them. That's where they go. And that's, don't just go straight there, by the way. If there's something on them that needs to be repaired or parts that need to be replaced or something like that, they fix them up before they move them.
My local shop, Good Time Music, occasionally they'll do donations, and they will actually run the guitars through setup and stuff before they donate them, which is kind of cool.
And that Glary was so bad they couldn't take it. Well,
I shouldn't say that.
Honestly though, that doesn't surprise me because I have a Chingze, and it's a piece of hot garbage. Yeah.
Well, people, I still get people commenting on that video all the time. Well, you didn't stretch out the strings before, that's the reason why. Well, I mean, you watched it literally go from plucking a single string. I mean, I showed it on video what it was doing. That not stretched strings aren't stretched out. Don't do that to that extreme. I've pulled. I've lost count of how many thousands of guitars I pulled out of the box brand new. Not a single one of them has ever done what that thing did. None of them.
I remember that video now. That when you said that, I remember that. The funny part is whenever somebody says stretching strings, that's my big red flag for you. Don't know what the hell you're talking about because you're stretching the string against the post. You're not actually stretching the string out. Like you're pulling the post tight. You're not like it's not the same thing at all. In fact, I've seen guitars before. I saw a Samick one time where one of the tuners was messed up. And when you would bend, you could see the tuning machine start to turn.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not supposed to happen. There's no tension in there.
I didn't notice that on suppose it could have been, but I don't know, man. I've seen several other videos, from people that received them, that demoed them. Some of those videos have all, said, yeah, for $60, it's a great deal, especially if you're looking for a mod platform. And maybe they're right. I don't know. Maybe I got a link, but what they described is not at all what
I saw a couple of videos that had exactly the same problem you did. So it leads me to believe that the people who didn't have it, I'm not saying 100%, but it leads me to believe that the people that didn't have that problem were actually shilling it because the issues you had, and other channels that did the same, that had the same issues, those issues that you had were the same cause. The causation was the same, and I can't remember. There's something about that guitar that, what was it? It's like a neck that's made of some material or something that.
Oh, the Colossus.
Yeah.
Guitar.
Yeah.
Supposedly they advertise, and I got sitting right over here. They advertise that guitar as the neck of that guitar be made of carbon fiber, but really it's it's a carbon fiber plastic composite thing
Yeah.
that's, because, and I noticed that when I pulled it out of the box, I was like, carbon fiber neck, why does this thing have a truss rod in it?
Yeah.
If it was actual carbon, it wouldn't need a truss rod.
Yeah.
But because it feels like carbon fiber, like you said, it's a carbon fiber / plastic composite that makes it bend back and forth. And Phil McKnight actually did the best demonstration. He got out a heat gun. If you guys didn't see it, he got out a heat gun,
heat gun
up the neck. And it was in it, and the level of heat that was coming out of it was not astronomical. He was able to put his hand up against it and put it up, hold it up against the shoulder, and it didn't burn, or hurt him at all. So it's not like it was, he was putting a blowtorch on it. But it was a higher temperature, probably 110 degrees, which you might experience if you were playing under a set of hot lights outside at an outdoor gig in the summertime.
Yeah,
maybe.
like these lights.
Yeah. So, or this giant thing behind me that's making me sweat.
Yep.
Not too much longer, I hope.
Right. That's what he was trying to simulate. But, he heated up the neck and strummed it as he was doing it. And, you could hear it pull out of tune because the neck was, was moving. So he took the heat gun off of it and then strummed it as it began to cool back down. And it relatively, anyway, went back into tune.
Yeah, it went back where it was.
So, for the most part, yeah. So, there was definitely some mislead. I didn't catch that until after I shot my video, but he pointed that out. Nobody was more brutal about that guitar though than. If you guys have not seen Arnold Plays Guitars video on his Kolos guitars, he definitely didn't pull any punches.
Well, are we? Do you have anything else you want to add, Jim? Or are we?
That's
wrapping
it.
up here?
We're there. I'm going to cut this into 2.
All right. Well, that said, I've been David.
I've been Jim.
I've been Robert.
And tonight we've all been Practical Guitarists.
Adios.